Feel this impact in your bones. Do you really think you're choosing what you think? Maybe no one ever told you, but every image, sound, and idea you consume has been filtered, scripted, and sponsored. You're not just watching movies or checking the news. You're being slowly trained. Behind polished entertainment, blockbuster movies filling theaters, or news presented as uncomfortable truths, there is an invisible, ancient, and silent architecture shaping every inch of your perception. And maybe the biggest trap is this: believing that no one, absolutely no one, manipulates what's in your head. But where does all this come from? Who are the real architects of the reality we consume without noticing? Meet Edward Bernays, the man who not only understood the power of ideas, but learned to mold them. He realized it was possible to collectively influence thoughts and behaviors, pioneering what we now call the engineering of consent. A subtle and powerful science capable of redesigning desires, opinions, and even taboos. Before I show you the experiment that forever changed what you associate with a simple cigarette, let me explain what this so-called engineering of consent is. It's the art of silently manipulating public opinion, making people accept ideas, behaviors, or products as if they were natural choices, when in fact everything was strategically orchestrated behind the scenes. Now, imagine New York in the 1920s. In the frenetic rhythm of a city in transformation, progress seemed just around the corner. But for women on the grand avenues, invisible and silent barriers remained, especially when it came to smoking in public. When a woman lit a cigarette, it didn't matter if she was an executive or an artist. She'd immediately be labeled a transgressor, a rebel, a fallen woman. Society saw these women as immoral, associating cigarettes with bohemian life, debauchery, even prostitution. Smoking wasn't forbidden by law, but by the relentless judgment of the masculine gaze. Amidst this climate of prejudice, the big tobacco companies had big dreams to conquer this new market. And that's when Edward Bernays steps in, ready to use every tool of psychic and media influence at his disposal. On Easter Sunday of 1929, as crowds filled Fifth Avenue, a group of stylish young women drew attention. But it wasn't their hats or fancy dresses that shocked people. It was the carefully rehearsed gesture, all of them at once, lighting their cigarettes in front of the cameras. The scandal made headlines. Torches of freedom, declared the papers. Cigarettes, once a symbol of disgrace, now shown as a standard of female emancipation. It wasn't vanity. It wasn't a fluke. It was the engineering of consent at its purest, transforming a vice into a banner, a stigma into empowerment. But before we continue, it's important to be clear. The engineering of consent is not a conspiracy theory. It's not men in suits in a dark room or some evil mastermind pulling the strings. It's an architecture of invisible control, operating in the deepest layers of human consciousness, far beyond what we perceive. The power of this engineering isn't in the shout, but in the whisper, in the choices we think we made of our own free will, in the symbols we accept and even defend passionately, believing they're part of our identity. We consent without noticing. Worse yet, we often fight to keep intact to our invisible prisons. In the coming minutes, we'll dive even deeper into this universe and understand how entire societies are manipulated to remain miserable and ignorant in the face of the most sophisticated mental manipulation techniques. Techniques combining hidden symbolism, deep psychology, and powerful social engineering. Get ready. What comes next isn't fiction, it's the reality we live in. And to understand the reach of these strategies, it's worth noting. Edward Bernays was Sigmund Freud's nephew, and he used his uncle's ideas about the unconscious to craft methods capable of molding the desires and opinions of the masses. He knew it wasn't enough to convince the rational mind. You had to seduce the unconscious. That's how he taught companies to sell products, governments to sell wars, and politicians to manufacture idols, while people unaware danced to the tune written by the engineers of consent. More than a century has passed. We've gone from print newspapers to algorithms, from torches of freedom to hashtags, from those Easter parades to massive viral campaigns on social media. The logic, however, is frighteningly the same. Desires, fears, and resentments manufactured backstage. What we consume, defend, and even hate is often the result of artificial narratives that fit perfectly into our voids, dreams, and anxieties. If Bernays once created symbols to break taboos, today savvy campaigns use deep psychology, data analysis, and digital influence to steer our opinions on politics, consumer goods, health, morality, and everything else we consider ours. We are still being manipulated, just with more technology, more efficiency, and less awareness than ever. So now, the question is, how far does our consent go? And what can we do to awaken from this carefully staged theater? Manipulation, which once happened behind the scenes of print newspapers and gigantic ad campaigns, has now taken on even more sophisticated and dangerous forms. The media we consume daily aren't just vehicles for information or entertainment. They are machines for shaping mindsets, able to select, distort, and even fabricate truths for the benefit of certain groups and interests. The news selects, hides, highlights, or silences facts according to invisible agendas. Bombastic stories, debates, and sensationalist headlines feed fear, anger, and social division, all meticulously scripted, edited, and calculated. These aren't just mistakes or media exaggerations. It's the engineering of consent at work, dictating what deserves your attention, outrage, or hope. Social media has accelerated this logic even further. There, what goes viral is rarely what's most true. It's what sparks the most clicks, likes, arguments, and, of course, profit for the platforms. The algorithm isn't committed to reality. Its only goal is to keep you hooked to whatever triggers your emotions the most, even if it's partial, distorted, or completely fake. Paid influencers, manufactured experts, stories planted to swing elections, rumors that turn into facts after circulating thousands of times. The system is so efficient that victims themselves often become fierce defenders of these manipulated versions, as if defending a manufactured lie was a matter of personal honor. In this scenario, the line between truth and falsehood dissolves. The fact no longer matters, only the narrative. Who tells the better story? Who manipulates more expertly? Who goes viral first? Scandals are created out of thin air. Reputations are destroyed or exalted in the blink of an eye. And public opinion is driven not by reflection, but by reaction. Seeing through these mechanisms is the first step to escaping the trap of easy thinking, automatic consumption of biased news, and the blind defense of manipulated narratives. The challenge now is to open your eyes and start asking, why do they want me to think this way? Who is really in control of my emotions, my opinions, my consent? What no one ever told you is that there's an intricately staged show happening. Hollywood, for example, isn't just a dream factory, but a control lab where fake soldiers display bravery on cue and real conflicts are rewritten to look just. Did you know that movies have been revised, cut, even remade in exchange for tanks and helicopters loaned by the military? That's the rule, not the exception. What you see on screen isn't just an artistic choice. It's political, commercial, strategic. Sometimes we're not looking at scripts. We're looking at true emotional indoctrination manuals. When you feel anger, patriotic pride, or even sympathy for the good guys in a war, ask yourself, are those feelings truly yours or carefully distributed implants? Now stop and think. Have you ever felt that, even as an adult, you live in a kind of digital playground where everything spins too fast, clamors for your attention, and in the end, nothing really matters? I invite you to look deep for a few seconds. Maybe you're trouble focusing, that common anxiety, that feeling of never truly living. Maybe none of that is just yours. Maybe it's the planned effect of a world that doesn't want you to grow. When we're promised infinite distraction, no one warns you about the cost. What no platform will tell you is that every time you scroll endlessly, your brain is actually being reset. Thoughts float, but never deepen. Critical thinking weakens, and uncomfortable questions fade away. Remember when you could finish a book or just stare at the ceiling and get lost in your own thoughts? Now, every silence is filled by notifications and 15-second clips as your mind dissolves into fragments. Look around you. The streets, public transport, the coffee table. Each set of eyes glued to a screen is a link in this invisible chain. The brain never rests. It never learns to deal with boredom or discomfort because it's been trained to run from them. We live in a culture of total distraction, where even the most intense emotions are reduced to an emoji or a funny video. Have you noticed how sadness, anger, and amazement now last only seconds, quickly dissolving into something trivial? And then the reality check hits. It's not just entertainment, it's mass-scale manipulation. We're encouraged to adopt superficial opinions because they draw more engagement. Genuine feelings and deep discussions have been replaced by fleeting trends. The more distracted you are, the more predictable you become, the easier it is to be led like cattle. Many people don't even notice. They see themselves as free, creative, unique. But how many of your thoughts truly come from within, in silence? How many of your decisions weren't simply the result of the latest viral message, the latest celebrity telling you what's right? Faced with this, there are only two choices: stay numb or break free, even if it hurts. Breaking free means swimming against the current of algorithms, reclaiming your ability to reflect, to feel deeply, to live with honesty and depth. The world won't help you grow mentally. Only you can choose to stop, look within, and face the vast, forgotten landscape of the adult mind. If you felt this call, leave a comment below. Share how your mind feels now if you recognize that exhaustion, that silent search for something more real than screens and feeds. Your story could help wake up others who also want out of this cycle. Now picture this scene: a man alone in his apartment, scrolling the endless feed, half absorbed, half numb. Each image flashing before his eyes isn't just a distraction, they're masked invitations, subtle suggestions that maybe he needs something more to feel complete. With one click, he buys a promise of happiness. With another, he seeks relief for the restlessness tightening his chest. He doesn't even notice he's being guided. He thinks he chose, but the choice was made for him long before. But the effects of this bombardment of stimuli go far beyond a scattered mind and invisible fatigue. Emptiness and anguish also become commodities. And it's in this scenario that the pharmaceutical industry emerges as a silent protagonist. Instead of investigating the causes of so much emptiness, sadness, or anguish, they prefer to sell drugs that promise immediate relief. Not to cure, but to silence symptoms, to sweep pain under the rug while you believe you're being cared for. After all, a relieved but never truly cured client is an eternal client. Realize, turning discomfort into dependency is big business. And the more society treats sadness and anxiety as isolated problems to be neutralized, the less room there is to understand the roots of our own suffering. If this video touched you in any way, share your experience in the comments. Tell us if you've ever felt manipulated, lost, or if you're searching for this awakening. Your voice could help others to wake up too. Subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, and like this video so this message can reach even more people. Together, we can create a community of awakened minds capable of transforming not just our own lives, but also the society around us. Share this video with those who need to hear this truth, because the more people wake up, the stronger this movement for liberation becomes. And remember, change begins within you.